Hello friends, the purpose of this video is to document how we configure the backend and the front end for basic authentication. So let me talk a little bit about the background, how the project is set up. So the backend, um, is set up by Spring Boot, and we're using Hibernate in the providing REST APIs. So there's REST APIs, and the front end I'm using Angular framework. So front end will be Angular. Okay. In today's video, I like to document how the security, the very minimum bone, basic security setup for backend. So the first step you have to do is to configure security. Okay. So I'm going to say step one. We need to configure security. Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste the configuration class content to here. Then we can go over that. Very simple. This is a configuration. So the bin will be generated and managed by Spring. So this class is also extending the provided web security configure adapter. This is the file. This is the Java class provided by Spring that we use to configure security. This class is actually obsolete and will not be used in a newer Spring version, but in my current Spring version, this class is still not obsolete, so I'm still using it. But in your version, the configuration should be similar. So anyway, if we extend this class, we'll have to override configure method in order to configure or customize the security configuration. And here, so the first line here is to say that we actually want to. So the first one here doesn't do anything. So this is of course cross-region restriction, and so this will be enabled by default. So it doesn't actually do anything here. So there's also a cross-set forgery attack in this security, and I disable this security because this is just for demonstration purpose. And if you want to try this out, you want to disable this first. And then the next setting is we want to allow the authorized request, and for any request we want the request to be authenticated, and we want the authentication to be HTTP basic. So basically what this is saying that we want to check the header, and we want in particular we want to check the authorization header and see if authorization header contains the credential that we can use to match the credential in the database, and see if we have a matching credential, so that so that the request can be allowed to proceed and access REST controller. And this bin here is providing the encoder service, and so here we are using no op password encoder, which means that we're not encoding at all. Password will be stored in the database in plain format, and there will be no encryption, and so the password will be just compared character by character. There's no encryption. Okay, so this is security setup, and we will also need to configure a user detail service. So step 2, configure the user details service, and so this service, so user detail service. This service is used to actually customize or allow customized database tables for credentials. And so I'm just going to copy and paste here. And this is a service, so this class will also be managed by Spring. Looks like there's overflow here. See if we can. Is there anything we can do? Not sure if there's anything we can do here. So let's see. Maybe there's something I can do. Going to remove this. Okay. To make this a little bit larger, we need more space. Okay, here we go. So this is the configuration class for user detail service. What it returns is the user credentials, an object of user that Spring can understand. As you can see, I'm auto wiring a repository here, and this repository is what we use to talk to database. And because we're implementing user detail service, we also need to override the load user by username method, which allows us to customize the user. So here we are. So when the HTTP request came, and we look at the authorization header, and from the authorization header we extract the username from base 64 encoded message, and then we can use the username that we extracted from the header to look for in the database, to look for the match, and of course the username is supposed to be unique, and if after we found a match, and we can build the user. So this is building the user. We return the user object that we built based on the information we get from the database, and so that user is what Spring can understand, and then Spring can use this user object to compare against the credential extracted from the authorization header of the HTTP request, and in order to determine whether to allow HTTP request to access the resources that this request is requesting. So this would be second step. So of course, you will also have to configure REST controllers, providing resources for the endpoints, so that the front end can call and sending requests for. Okay, but so far this is basically what is needed to configure on the back end. Now come to the front end part. So on the front end, so front end is very simple. You create a service, and in the service, you make HTTP requests, and you could make GET requests or POST requests, right? So these two requests are the most commonly used requests. But in order, because the way that we set up the backend, the REST controllers or REST endpoints are secured by HTTP the basic auth or basic auth authentication. So for each request coming out from the front end, we want to append a header, and this header is called authorization header, and we want to in the authorization header we want to provide credential that can be authenticated by the Spring security here that we set up. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm just going to use step one, probably the only step we need here. So we want to create what is called interceptor. Okay, we're going to create an interceptor. Now what this interceptor does is to append each request with a header called authorization, and in this header we want to provide credential, and also we want to encode the header, the credential using base 64 encoder. Okay, so step one, create interceptor to intercept requests. Okay, so step two, for each request we want to put a header. Okay, and this header is authorization header. Okay, and step three, okay, the credential will need to be base 64 encoded. Okay, so that's basically what is needed for the front end to set up. So I'm going to copy and paste the code, the basic auth interceptor, and very simple. It's a injectable service. Copy and paste. Going to make this wrap. Okay, there we go. So this is so I'm going to put here. This is Angular. So we created a injectable, and so this is a class which we name it basic auth HTTP interceptor, and that this class implements HTTP interceptor, and it has a method called intercept, which we will have to implement. It takes, as you can see, two passing parameters. The first one is the request, and so this is a request going out to the backend, and then the HTTP handler, and so it's just like a filter that after we handle the request, we can use this HTTP handler to pass the HTTP request down to the next handler or next interceptor. Okay, so the username is M0001, and the password is this password. So very secure. Just kidding. This is for demonstration purpose, so I made them very simple. Intentionally made them very simple. Okay, so this method buffer.from and toString here I specified base 64, and so this is the method or encoder we use to encode the credential, which is in this format. So that's the username and password separated by a colon, and then we use the clone method to append or put this header to the ongoing HTTP request. And so here we set the header, and the name of the header is authorization, and we want to specify this authorization is for basic authentication purpose. So that's what this basic is here for. And the credential, of course, the credential is base 64 encoded. And after that, we want to pass this request down to the next filter, which we don't have. So this will go out to the backend for for resources. Okay, that's it. That's basically what it is that you have to do in order to set up basic auth, and so that's the backend setup, security setup, and this is the front end security setup. Well, thanks for watching, and bye bye.